Now from a Tottenham fan, because joining us live on Good Morning Transfers is Ricky Sachs from the Last Word on Spurs podcast. Great to see you again, Ricky. You know that the papers this morning have been saying he must be sold this summer if he doesn't sign a new contract. What do you think should happen right now as a Tottenham fan?
Well, Tom, lovely to see you. Happy transfer season. And no doubt I'm here to talk about Harry Kane. You couldn't really make it up. With regards to Kane's situation, look, I want the player to stay. He's the poster boy. I just want to address Harry Kane. And I think it's important to put a reference to the fact that Joe Lewis, who, as we understand, is still the chairman of Tottenham Hotspur, is 86 years old. And there has been numerous reports that, according to Company's House, he's no longer a person of interest to Tottenham Hotspur. So on that basis alone, I would again take a lot of what's come out last night to some degree with a pinch of salt. I've got absolutely no doubt Harry Kane does want to leave Tottenham Hotspur this summer. He's, of course, encouraging interest from Bayern Munich. But like as the guys have said there, I am concerned that we're going to have a summer of this situation where Harry Kane's future is going to continue to dominate Tottenham's pre-season and in the build-up to the start of the Premier League season. I think that's my biggest concern. Ange Postecoglou, the new Spurs head coach, needs to come in, needs to know exactly what the direction of the football club is, have a squad that is hungry, willing to work. And this situation with Harry Kane is not helping anyone out, and it's overshadowing what is a really, really important pre-season for the new head coach.
What would you think, though, if, let's say, he doesn't sign that new contract and these reports are true and that he does want Daniel Levy to sanction a move? Is that the right thing to do in your mind? Or would you say, like Dan says, he stays, had a good start to the season, and maybe Tottenham can convince him to sign a new contract?
I think, Tom, the issue is that the 30 goals to Tottenham, which Harry obviously provided last season, is worth so much more than, in my opinion, 100 million would be to Tottenham summer. I think Kane is irreplaceable. And given that we're now coming towards the end of July, Spurs are already, you'd feel, maybe behind on potential replacements for Harry. So, in my opinion, I believe Harry Kane will stay at Tottenham this summer and he will go on a free next season and then have the opportunity to go to wherever he wants to go, which I think will hit Daniel Levy harder. The fact that control goes into Harry Kane's hands and ultimately he can choose wherever he wants to go, whether he wants to stay in the Premier League, dare I say, whether he wants to go and join Maurizio Pochettino at Chelsea. I'd hope Harry wouldn't want to tarnish his Spurs legacy. But ultimately, I think this summer, Tottenham need Harry Kane to be a Spurs player. I think Ange Postecoglou needs Harry Kane to be a Spurs player. I think the one thing you know about Harry is that, look, whatever happens, if he decides and will be a Spurs player beyond this summer transfer window, he will get his head down, he will work, as he always has done, and give his all for the football club. And I think ultimately that is worth more to Tottenham than 100 million would be this summer, because ultimately, if I'm being brutally honest with you, I'm not sure, based on Spurs' previous aspect of recruitment, that I trust them to be able to adequately spend that 100 million wisely enough to replace a player and calibre of Harry Kane.
As you've alluded to, Tottenham do right now still have some power because he has still got a year left on his contract. They can at least refuse to sanction a deal to another Premier League club. And as you rightly say, next summer he could choose whoever he wants and the power has gone from Tottenham. How hard would it be for you to see him in another Premier League shirt, let alone a Bayern Munich, etc.?
Yeah, it will be tough, so I'm not going to lie to that. It will be very, very difficult. I think, obviously, where we are at the moment with regards to Kane, I think, look, it's a Tottenham player. We can speculate all we want about other clubs. I think Spurs have been fairly firm so far in the fact that they do not want to see him go to a Premier League rival this summer. In terms of next summer, I think, again, it's one of those things that, as a fan, we can't worry about too much. Let's just hope, potentially, that he stays this summer, falls in love with Ange Postecoglou and the brand of football and wants to sign a new contract. I think, again, that understanding out there is that there's 2 or 3 different avenues open to Harry Kane. One of them, of course, is that he stays at the football club, he loves the brand of football, Spurs are going in the right direction, and he then commits his long-term future, signs a mega contract and sees out his career at Tottenham as being a one-club man. So I think that is still very much a possibility. However, the longer this goes on, my concern is that it will dominate Spurs' pre-season. We've been here before. Spurs fans will know. You go back to Berbatov, Keane, Modric, Bale, Carrick. Spurs, we've seen some big players leave this football club. And ultimately, look, whatever happens, the club is bigger than any other player. It will carry on. It will continue. But of course, we want Tottenham to have Harry Kane in their squad, in their team, in their lineup. And we just hope, I think all of us, that we get a positive conclusion to this one way or another, so we can concentrate on the big thing, which is Ange Postecoglou coming through the door and looking to improve the rest of the squad, because Spurs still have a lot of business they need to do during this window. They need to get a couple of centre-backs in. That has to be a priority. And along with this Kane situation goes on, my concern is that it's becoming a bigger distraction to the other areas at Tottenham that need to be addressed this summer.
It sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not necessarily confident that he'll sign a new deal, but you are confident he'll still be there at the end of September the 1st, deadline day.
The thing is, Tom, with the transfer window, it's such an unpredictable market where I don't believe Bayern have got the sufficient money in place to go and propose a bid to Tottenham this summer to lure Harry Kane away. I think Harry Kane will stay at Spurs this summer, but I'm going to be honest with you and say that in 12 months' time, sitting here talking to you, I can't be confident Harry Kane will be a Tottenham player. What I do know if Harry Kane does remain a Spurs player this summer, he'll give absolutely everything to Ange Postecoglou for this upcoming season.
And just finally, Tottenham have done some business already. I know you mentioned centre-backs. Where else does Postecoglou need to strengthen?
Yeah, good question. I mean, that's got to be the fundamental area of centre-backs at the moment. Many would maybe argue that, depending if Pierre-Emile Højbjerg leaves, Tottenham need to bring in another central midfielder. But I think the priority has to be at centre-back. This is a Spurs team that conceded 63 goals last season in a whole. And ultimately, to be at this point now, it's negligent, in my opinion, from the football club that we have not gone out and addressed the area that was glaring at the end of the season that needed to be improved. And I do just want to say at this point, it's, I think, unfair on Ange Postecoglou that he's having to juggle and shuffle players when you go back to the Pochettino era of defensive options, where ultimately he should have, in my opinion, a number of different players to work with that can ultimately enhance that defence. It needs to happen. It has to happen. And it's unfair on Postecoglou, in my opinion, who's made a really good start to the job. I think everyone is warming to him. We can see that he's got a plan. We can see he's got a vision. We can see there's going to be an identity about this Tottenham side. But look, let's back the manager and give him what he needs to have every possible chance of succeeding as the new Spurs head coach.
Well, the youngster in the background is clearly not happy with this whole situation, Ricky, so I'd better let you get back to that. But great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Pleasure as always. Thanks again.
Speaking of not happy, you may have seen over the weekend a German reporter decide to have a bit of fun with Ange Postecoglou. All right, we'll show you it now. He took with him a Bayern Munich shirt, remember, with Kane number 9 on the back, and showed it to the Tottenham manager, who, it's fair to say, was not impressed at all. In fact, Postecoglou really did give him short shrift. And actually, I would say dealt with it very, very well. He did. I mean, as journalists yourselves, James, if you were in that news conference, what would you have thought? And I assume you wouldn't have been as brazen as that young man was.
I don't think so. It was certainly a bold shout, wasn't it? And he was subsequently banned from the match that took place on Sunday, which was due to take place on Sunday. Of course, there was a monsoon, so Spurs didn't get to play Leicester in the end. But on a serious note, Ange Postecoglou only started work in July, but already you can sense a real feeling of frustration, annoyance at the Harry Kane situation, constant question marks around it. It's either the first or the second question in the press conference he's being asked. And he's already said himself, he feels like he's having to repeat himself every single time. He's said he's not relaxed about the situation. He doesn't want it going on for too long. And as Ricky was saying there before, Spurs have had this so many times in their history when it comes to their star players. It happened 2 years ago with Harry Kane, Nuno Espirito Santo. It didn't last too long, but every single question was around Harry Kane and what the future would be for him. So it's the last thing Postecoglou wants. Whilst he himself isn't going to set a deadline to Spurs about sorting out this situation, this is really hampering their pre-season. It's dominating the talk in the build-up to what should be an exciting new era for Spurs.
Let's have a quick-fire use of the hashtag transfer talk on Twitter. Will Harry Kane be a Tottenham player after deadline day? Very simple. All right, got a few minutes to get these in. We'll read some out before the break. I'm going to ask the panel this as well. Dan?
I've completely forgotten what the question was, Tom.
It was about 3 seconds ago.
I was busy thinking about where Harry Kane might end up going.
That's exactly what I'm asking. Well, I'm saying, will he be a Tottenham player at the end of deadline day? What a great start this is to the first Good Morning Transfers.
Wake up. I think what Ricky says is true. I think he will be. But one thing I found interesting about what Ricky said was he said if Kane stays, if his future's a bit uncertain, he'll still always give his all. But his form suffered when he didn't get that Manchester City move. His form over the first few months of that season a couple of years ago was not good. So it has become a massive distraction. It needs to get sorted ASAP.
But you think he will be there?
I think he'll be there, yeah.
Sam?
No, I don't think he will, and I don't think he should. I think he'll be good for Postecoglou to just have a fresh start. He spoke about, the fresh start he had at Celtic, at Spurs, rising to a new challenge. We've seen already with the journalists coming in the press conference with that stuff. It's just going to be so long-winded until they sort it out, and it doesn't look like Kane wants to sign a new deal. So I think they should just settle it and say thank you for all you've done.
So yes, he'll be at Tottenham. No, he won't be. James?
I agree with Sam that Spurs need to deal with the situation, but I think Harry Kane will still be a Spurs player on the 1st of September after deadline day. But on deadline day, my prediction is there's going to be a big bid that comes in for him, and Spurs will be left in a situation.
We're going to revisit what you all think back home just before the break. But before we get to that, all right, there's a line just into us now from Leeds, and it's the defender Max Verber, who we talked about a lot in January when he signed for the club. Well, he's in talks over a deal to join Borussia Mönchengladbach. That would be a season-long loan, all right? So Max Verber, only signed for Leeds in January, could be going away just 6 months later on loan to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Right now, throughout the window, we're going to be going through the free agents who are still available. We might actually revisit this at lunchtime, but we've got an update on one such player right now. James, what's happening with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain?
Well, we understand 3 Premier League clubs are interested in signing Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. We understand those clubs are Aston Villa, Brighton and Brentford, and it's also understood he's had interest from MLS, Turkey and, of course, from the Saudi Pro League as well. So he left Liverpool at the end of last season. He already has turned down a few lucrative proposals abroad because his preferred option at this moment in time is to stay in England. He turns 30 next month. He still feels like he's got a future at international level. Won the last of his 35 England caps in 2019. So there are a few options on the table for Oxlade-Chamberlain at the moment, but his preference at this moment in time is to stay in the Premier League, and we understand at least 3 Premier League clubs are interested in signing him.
And it was quite interesting at the end of last season. Jordan Henderson had some words on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain when he left, which will be music to the ears of the managers who want to sign him.
Yeah, Henderson, I mean, he didn't have to do that, did he, in his programme notes? He almost went out of his way to praise the Ox. He said, Ox is currently in the shape of his life. Whoever gets him next has won the lottery. He's been one of our standout players in training for the past 2 seasons. He also went on to say, the guy is dynamite. What a player.
OK, so Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, an update there on him. Remember, we do our free transfer 11s, which we quite like doing on Good Morning Transfers and Transfer Talk. Just quickly on Harry Kane, I asked that very simple question, didn't I? I said, would he still be at Tottenham at the end of deadline day? Jonesy says Kane stays unless Bayern pay the money, and that's £100 million. Simple. I've got Paul, who says he will stay at Tottenham, run his contract down. And then Paula says he'll head to Chelsea on a free, which I think is kind of the Tottenham fans' worst nightmare, isn't it? And we've got another one here saying, I don't think Kane will push for a move, but they will have to get the right fee. And Peter says Harry Kane will be a Manchester United player at the end of the window. And one quick one that should come in, Nick says Kane will still be at Tottenham this season. And he actually should, if they were going to force him out, have moved a few years ago because they would have got more money for him. Right, OK. Plenty to come. Who will sign Kylian Mbappe, one of the biggest stars in the game's future? That future is in disarray. We'll discuss that next.
already, but they are desperate. They're crying out for a striker. Marcus Rashford scored 30 goals last season playing on the left flank. He doesn't favour playing through the middle. I'm not sure whether or not he can keep up that goal-scoring form, because that kept United going last season. Anthony Martial, a brilliantly gifted and talented player. His injury record hasn't been brilliant, so United can't rely on him this season. But it does feel like with Højlund they're potentially buying potential rather than the finished article, which is what they need at the moment. And that's why Harry Kane is the dream fit. And when you look at Højlund, plenty of potential, but just 8 goals last season in Serie A. So it doesn't feel like he's the right man to fix United's problems right now. Yes, he's got the potential to be a brilliant player in the future. And United probably need to sign 2 strikers. Ideally a young player like Højlund, but then also the finished article like Harry Kane. But at this moment in time, it looks like Højlund is the man they're plumping for.
Right, OK, now to Kylian Mbappe. Where will he be playing come September? Let us know by using hashtag #TransferTalk and read some of those ones out. His future has been thrown into chaos. He has 1 year left in his current deal, but doesn't want to sign a new contract, and now the club are prepared to sell him to the highest bidder this summer. But James, back to you, because it's not that simple, is it? It's more complicated than that.
It's really complicated. There's so much to get through here. Mbappe, he has been put up for sale. He's not part of the PSG tour at the moment, and the club are now in a position where they'll do whatever they can to sell him to the highest bidder. So he's been told to report for training as normal whilst the rest of the squad are out in Japan and South Korea for their tour. And this has actually drawn plenty of criticism from what is the equivalent of the French PFA, who have actually threatened civil and criminal legal action against PSG, because they've said putting pressure on an employee via the deterioration of their working conditions to force them to leave or accept what the employer wants constitutes moral harassment. And what Mbappe's immediate reaction to learning the news that he wasn't part of the pre-season tour and that the club wants to sell him is he's happy to stay on the bench all season and see out his contract and leave for free in the summer. He's ready to call their bluff to see what PSG do next. But PSG themselves are convinced that Mbappe has already agreed to join Real Madrid for free at the end of next season. It's such a messy situation that PSG find themselves in. I think in hindsight, they probably wish maybe they did sell him last summer.
Well, how difficult is this then, Sam? Because you've got the player side of it, the fans and the club.
I think it's a sad situation, and obviously it's difficult on all ends, but I think there's been, I'd say, miscommunication in terms of what Mbappe wanted when he signed these contracts last season. Obviously, we saw all the rumours with Real Madrid. It almost seemed like it was done at a certain point. Florentino Perez was almost certain he was going to join, and then there was a few conversations, and then he signed his new contract. But what I found really interesting is the fact that everyone in world football knew that he wanted to go to Real Madrid. So if PSG knew that, wouldn't it have made sense for them to put in a release clause that they thought would be suitable for his value? You know, he's been at the club since 2018. He's almost become the player that he is nowadays. He's got 310 goals and assists in 260 appearances. Like, that's a lot for the club. And I think now he wants to kick on. He's seen Haaland win a treble in his first season moving to City. And I think Mbappe is a player that clearly wants to be challenging for the European trophies. And he hasn't really been able to, step over that mark, except from the one final that they've had.
Everyone at home, remember, let us know, where do you think Kylian Mbappe will be playing his football next season? Hashtag TransferTalk on Twitter. Right, Dan, if PSG want to sell to the highest bidder, does it give us hope that we might see him in the Premier League? I'll repeat the question for you, Dan. Does it give us hope that we might see him in the Premier League?
I've got this one down. I don't think we will see him in the Premier League. It's felt very much like Mbappe's career is mapped out from Monaco to PSG. I think that was a footballing decision, but also a bit of a brand decision coming into play there as well. And it was clear 12 months ago that the road was Real Madrid. It didn't happen. A lot of money was offered. He's ended up signing a new contract to stay at PSG, but now they're in this situation a bit like Kane, where do they lose him for free or do they want to cash in? PSG clearly want to cash in. I just think Real Madrid aren't even being linked with any other strikers at the moment. They've signed Joselu, who feels very much like a backup option, been a bit of a journeyman striker over the years, despite having a really good season in La Liga last year. So with that in mind, Real Madrid have not really replaced Karim Benzema. Now, Mbappe is a different type of player completely to Benzema, obviously, but it feels like they're just keeping that number 9 shirt warm. And I think if Real Madrid offer any kind of big money, PSG, by the sounds of it, will take it. And that's just felt like where Mbappe has been heading for the last few years, really.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be really toxic if they don't sort it soon, obviously, that's the thing. Mbappe has made it very clear that he's fine to see out his contract. He loves PSG, he loves the fans, but we've seen even with PSG fans, they get quite irate when they don't do well in the Champions League, and I think they share that bond in terms of not being able to progress. And I think if Mbappe stays in that environment and he stays on the bench, that's the worst case scenario, because it's going to follow them throughout the whole season. They're going to have a new manager, they've got new players as well, and he's probably one of the senior players in that team, even though he's so young. So same thing with Kane, they just need to sort it out as soon as possible.
He's the France captain now as well, isn't he? That's unsustainable to have him on the bench, and even if they've got him on the bench, they're going to be bringing him on. What happens if he comes on and scores a hat-trick? You're not going to not play him the next week. So it's not tenable what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, well, Luke says he doesn't think Mbappe will leave PSG. He will go to Real Madrid for a free in the summer, which I think is probably what the lowest odds would be. Peter says that if Manchester United don't get Kane, he can see them going for Mbappe instead. And Ray, I think he might be poking a little bit of fun at the Tottenham fans here, because he says that he doesn't think Mbappe will go to Arsenal, because instead they are going to sign Harry Kane. Right, next, OK, who has been the standout signing of the window so far? Have your say again using hashtag TransferTalk, and we'll have a look at the biggest deal to have gone through in a couple of minutes' time.
Sky Sports News, sponsored by Shaw Non-Stop Protection.
Who said electrification can't spark excitement when unplugged?
out the most to you?
I think Rice is probably the signing that I think most Premier League top teams would have wanted to go for him. You know, we saw the quality that he had at West Ham. He's obviously their captain. He's an England international. And I think in terms of the way Arteta wants to play, and I know there's been a few murmurs around the pre-season game against United and what they expected from him, and I think they expected more of like a show from Declan Rice. But I think in terms of what they're going to do next season and the players that they need and the quality that they need that can be versatile in the midfield, I think Declan Rice is the perfect signing, and I think he's going to transform their team.
All right, and I think, Dan, I think you've picked out another Arsenal signing.
Yeah, I think Rice is a bit more of a sure thing than Kai Havertz. I mean, Sam will know better than me, obviously watching him play so much for Chelsea. But I think it's a really interesting signing because he's essentially been brought in to replace Granit Xhaka, who was superb for Arsenal last season, had a really, really good season, his best season in an Arsenal shirt, and since then has departed. Havertz, I never felt he suited Chelsea. I don't think he was ever played in his natural position, spent too much time playing up top as a false nine when his best football in Germany had come as a number 10. So he's now going to Arsenal, but he's still not going to be playing as a number 10. So it's going to be really interesting to see how his game develops. But Arteta's system and the way Arsenal have evolved with all this box stuff that goes on as well, it's so free-flowing. You'll see maybe Havertz popping up with these deep runs, which is what he was good at in Germany. So he's just the one that, rather than thinking it's going to be a bona fide success, I think it's the one that interests me the most because it's still a lot of money, but he went for a lot of money 4 years ago when he came in for Chelsea, didn't he?
And should I let the viewers into a secret? You initially had done all your prep on Sandro Tonali to Newcastle. You didn't make our graphic. We'd missed a few out.
I mean, I've had a world-class morning so far, as we can tell. Yeah, again, Tonali's someone who, I mean, doesn't look very happy at being at Newcastle in some of the pictures you see of him. But it's another interesting one because I think they'll almost be able to use him and Guimaraes as a double pivot, both fantastic on the ball. People kind of associate Tonali with being like Pirlo when actually he's a bit more like Gattuso with the way he gets around the pitch and he presses and he distributes the ball well as well. So he got bodied last night playing against Villa in a pre-season friendly by Emi Buendia, which again wasn't a great start. But I do think he's going to be a fantastic signing for Newcastle. That's the kind of signing I expected them to make now being in the Champions League, a level above, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he fares.
Yes, Sarah's been in touch to say that she thinks that Declan Rice has been the signing of the summer. Someone called Lionel Messi, it's not the real one, I have checked, says that so far Nkunku to Chelsea, but also they do believe that Danjuma will be a good signing for Everton on loan. That was announced a couple of days ago. Luke has actually said Messi to Inter Miami. We're just talking about Europe, but that's definitely a good one to bring up, Luke. No doubt about that. So keep these coming in, because Stuart says that Nicholas Jackson to Chelsea is the best one. But we haven't asked you yet, James.
I think Mason Mount. I think Man United's persistence paid off in the end. 3 bids went in, they held their nerve, they said we weren't going to overpay for him. Chelsea came back to the table in the end, a £55 million deal with the option of 5 years, £5 million in add-ons. He's somebody that Erik ten Hag has actually tracked since about 2017. He sees him as a modern midfielder, somebody who can press, who can do pretty much everything as a midfielder. I think a lot of people who maybe questioned the deal forget what Mason Mount did previous to last season. He had so many injury issues last year, changing managers, number of players coming in. I don't think you can really judge him based on that. Season before that, more than 10 Premier League goals, 10 Premier League assists as well. If he can add something like that, because I think one thing Manchester United missed last season was when Casemiro was unfit or suspended, or when Eriksen missed 3 months of the season, United really struggled with the replacements. But I think Mason Mount's a player who can help them compete in the Champions League and the Premier League. It's going to be strange seeing him in a red shirt. He's already on that pre-season tour, but if he really buys into Manchester United, it could be a great move for both parties.
Now, everyone at home, if you can be bothered to write down a full 11, this is your chance, because together, the panel here of Dan, Sam and James have put together a first 11 of signings that have happened across Europe this summer. So this is the one that these three have agreed. I'm distancing myself because I didn't really get anybody that I actually wanted to go in there. All right, so anyone at home...
You picked Maddison.
Actually, I did get but although I had him in a different position. OK,
True.
so we had to shoehorn him in on the left wing. So this is theirs. We'll go through it in a second. But anyone at home, if you're quick and you can do all 11 players quickly, hashtag Transfer Talk on Twitter of the best signings around Europe this summer. And we start... I tell you what, we'll gloss over Onana because I think everybody said Onana. But Jurrien Timber did get the right-back berth, James, ahead of a little bit of competition.
Yeah, I think he's the man that we settled on in the end, because I think you only have to look at the way that Ajax paid tribute to him when he departed. It just shows a lot about him as a player and a character as well. And you consider just what he'll add to this Arsenal side. Last season, at the end of last season, missing out on Saliba being available and Tomiyasu crucially as well, it completely fell away from a defensive point of view. So having a player like Timber coming in now means they're so well suited if they do pick up any key injuries. It's going to be interesting to see where he plays, where he's going to be a right back in place of Ben White, or he comes in and disrupts what was a pretty settled centre-back pairing.
Skriniar at centre-back as a free was an obvious one. But Pau Torres is the other centre-back. Dan, I know that you'll be excited to see him this season.
Yeah, I didn't actually have him in my 11 when I did mine. I didn't want to have too much Villa bias, but then we've ended up with two Villa players in there anyway, which is great to see from my point of view. I think it'll take some time for him to acclimatise to the Premier League. He's obviously a high-quality centre-half, been linked with many big teams in the past. It's exciting for him to come and work under Unai Emery, who's done so well at Villa already. He'll know what Emery's about. He'll know Emery's methods, but Villa don't have to rush him into Premier League football, and I think they can ease him in the Europa Conference League, because Villa were excellent defensively at the back end of the season. Mings and Konsa had such a good partnership, kept so many clean sheets towards the back end of the season. So he'll have to fight to get in the team initially, but he hasn't been bought for that amount of money to sit on the bench. So gradually I think Emery will ease him in, but he looks like a classy operator.
And I know that you went for Guerrero at left-back again, a free transfer, but Ashley Young was mentioned. Sam, who do you say at left-back?
Hernandez.
Hernandez, but we decided that he's more likely to play centre-back. So didn't put him in there, which obviously we can contradict ourselves with Maddison later on, of course. Rice and Bellingham was a clean sweep, wasn't it? So no problem there. But then we had to really think about a third central midfielder. In the end, you can see that Dan had his way with Gundogan because he's a free transfer and he's just won the treble and everything. Absolutely fair enough. But Maddison was talked about as playing there. Mount as well. Quite a few central midfielders in there. But Gundogan, Sam, you happy with that one as the third?
Yeah, I think in terms of value and what he's going to add to the squad as soon as he gets in there, it's almost like it's crazy that they were able to do that so soon, and especially the fact that he just come off the back of winning a treble. He was the captain. You know, Barcelona have had obvious financial issues, so for them to, you know, stamp him down and have him unveiled already, I think he's going to improve the team.
And Moussa Diaby, you were particularly keen on, James?
Really excited to see him play in the Premier League. You see so many of these highlight clips and 3-minute YouTube compilations of some of his best bits, but it really feels like Unai Emery is turning this Aston Villa side into something really special. I know how excited you are about the start of this season. And the fact that a manager can sign players like that just shows how much respect he has within football, that players willing to go to a club who historically over the last 10 years haven't been qualified for European competition. Really excited to see Diaby play. The way Aston Villa's squad is looking is pretty exciting at the moment. I know they've got Newcastle on the first day of the season. It's going to be fascinating to see those two collide with all the signings they've been making as well.
So Maddison was moved to the left wing just to stop me from sulking, but I was still sulking because I wanted Victor Gyökeres up front, who's just left Coventry to go out to Portugal. But instead, Sam, you decided on Nkunku over Nicholas Jackson.
Yeah, it was either or, but I think in terms of the hype that they both had before they made the signing, I think Nkunku was already regarded as one of the best forwards in the world, and the price that Chelsea got him for, and the fact that he's hit the ground running in pre-season. But Nicholas Jackson, he's been amazing so far. So yeah, it was a tough one. I didn't want to put two of them in before people say I'm putting too much Chelsea players.
Right, Leo, Onana, Guerrero, Kim Min-jae, Pau Torres, Telles. Telles went to Saudi, didn't he?
Yep.
Saudi, wasn't he? Yeah. Rice, Bellingham, Mount, Sam Maximum again went to Saudi. Zaha and Diaby, Leo, has gone for Nick, Onana, Timber, Pau Torres, Skriniar, Guerrero, Bellingham, Rice, Maddison, Benzema again Saudi, Messi again USA, Firmino as well, doesn't count, but still, Paula Cassidy is furious, and so is Loz, that McAllister from Liverpool hasn't gone in. He was very much, very close to getting in. OK, right, so much to come. It's been a turbulent few weeks at Fulham. What does the next few weeks have in store for them? Welcome back and hello to those watching right now on the Sky Sports Premier League YouTube channel. Now, Wilfried Zaha has decided to join Galatasaray on a free transfer. It's understood he'll sign a 3-year contract with the Turkish club. Zaha had offers from Lazio, Fenerbahce and Al Nassr, as well as a 4-year offer from Crystal Palace. This is what he had to say about the move.
I'm happy. I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to seeing the stadium, to meeting my teammates, and yeah, just getting started. Thank you for the support, and I look forward to doing what I do on the pitch, and hopefully trying to win as much as possible.
Yeah, Zaha, I'm sure will be an absolute star out there in Turkey. But Sam, how surprised are you that it was Galatasaray that he chose?
I don't know. I'm 50-50 with this one because I expected him to stay at Crystal Palace, but at the same time, I know that he's been hungry for a move away from them. You know, we saw the links with Arsenal a few years ago. They were very close to signing him. He's been very open and honest about wanting to, you know, play high-level football. He's been at Palace since I think he was 8 years old. So I think he just wanted a new challenge. I think his options also started to become a lot slimmer as the transfer window started going on, and players in that situation, I'm sure they want to just get into the team, get settled, and, you know, start fighting for their position. And I think Galatasaray, they're in an interesting place now because they're making a few new signings. They just won the league as well, and I think it's an interesting challenge. It was a surprise, but I think he's going to do amazing now.
Yeah, I think kind of on the back of what Sam was saying there, it does feel like his options have been waning as the years have ticked along. Came so close to potentially joining Arsenal and Everton back in 2019, and heading into this summer he had the option on the table, 4-year deal from Crystal Palace, Lazio, Fenerbahce, Al Nassr were other clubs that are interested in him as well. But it feels like the move to Turkey makes sense. Perhaps he feels like he's done his time at Crystal Palace. 450 matches he played in, more than that actually. So it's quite incredible the length of time, the service he's given that club. He came back after that move, didn't work out to Manchester United. So I think Crystal Palace fans will be disappointed to lose him. But it does feel like it's a move that makes sense, and it does give him the opportunity to play in Europe as well.
How do you think the fans will take the news, Dan?
I think they respect his decision ultimately because it's Wilf Zaha and he's done so much for that club. He'll arguably go down as their best player ever. I think he's been that good for Crystal Palace. He kind of embodies what Palace are about, coming through the academy and making it all the way to the first team. That Palace are very big on stuff like that. I'm a little bit surprised he's gone to Turkey as well, but you have to respect his decision. Ultimately, he's earned the right to go and pick where he plays his football. From a personal point of view, I'm disappointed because he's one of the players I really love watching in the Premier League. For Palace now, it's going to be difficult because they're used to having him. He has been their talisman for so long. They've got Eze, they've got Elise, but they could end up losing either of them. But I think the big thing that Palace have done this summer is keep Roy Hodgson. I think when you've lost that figure like Zaha, it can very easily spiral. But I think with Roy Hodgson there, they'll have no worries. I think they'll have another stable season. They'll probably need to replace him, but then I look at it and think he did miss a fair few games with injury last season. Palace were very good towards the end of the season as well. So interesting times for them, but they can't really afford to lose anyone else. But I think Hodgson being there is a big thing.
Right, well, what a week it has been for Fulham. Marco Silva's future looks incredibly uncertain after he rejected 2 bids from Saudi Pro League clubs for his services. Their main striker, Alexander Mitrovic, wants to leave and has vowed to never play for the club again. And to make it worse, one of their key midfielders, João Palhinha, dislocated his shoulder.
We know the market is open. It's not surprise to you that you are looking to sign players in different positions on the pitch. But I'm going to talk about players that when they are with our shirt, players that they are from the other clubs, I will not talk about.
Right, OK, so Palhinha injured with that dislocated shoulder. We don't know how long he'll be out for. But Sam, Mitrovic, how much of a blow would that be to lose him? He's finally proved that he can score goals in the Premier League and then he wants to leave.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's proven his point that he can score in the Premier League, and he helped, you know, Fulham finish 10th. And I think they kind of dropped off when he got injured. They've obviously valued him around 50 million because they understand how hard it is to find a striker on today's market. So I can understand it, can understand his frustration as well, because what he's seeing, the other players that are going to Saudi and everything that's going on there. But yeah, it will be tough for Fulham if they lose him.
But Fulham are closing in on Raul Jimenez from Wolves as a potential replacement there. What about Lionel Messi? Made his Inter Miami debut at the weekend. He joined a free transfer from PSG. Sam, how well did he play?
He was incredible. Obviously, you'd expect that because it's Lionel Messi, but I'm not just saying it, but every time he touched the ball, it was just magical. And then the free kick last minute, it's like he's moved to America and he's already got his Hollywood storyline.
Well, his goal has been viewed 54 million times on the league's official Twitter page.
That was all Sam.
I did watch it like 100 times.
That tells you how big that transfer has been and how good that debut was. Right, OK, so this has been Good Morning Sports Fans. We are back. Remember, what did I say? Good Morning Sports Fans. Good Morning Transfers. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up. But don't worry, at midday, let me get this right. It is Transfer Talk at midday with all of us. And coming up on Sky Sports News next, we'll show you a host of Premier League games or Premier League teams and how they got on in pre-season action overnight.